So unfortunately, some more bad news in the fitness industry online. Bodybuilder has died from squatting, excess weight. He was clearly on steroids, he was lifting too much weight, and the spotter was incorrectly spotting him from behind. He was holding the bar instead of wrapping his arms around the bodybuilder, and he had too much weight and he went down into a low squat and he couldn't get back up, and the bar fell forward over his head and it snapped his neck and broke his neck and he died. So many people get injured ego lifting. His name was Justyn Vicky and he had 40,000 followers on YouTube. I'm not going to show the entire video on this on my video because it's a disturbing video, but you'll get the idea of what happened. I'll talk about 8 squatting safety techniques to squat safely with a barbell. The first one is always use collars or clips on the end, because the discs often have metal on the inside of the disc where you slide the bar onto the sleeve of the barbell, and the barbell is also metal, so when you're squatting and you accidentally tilt the bar slightly, the plate can easily slide, and then it can slide off and injure other people and fall on other people, or the plates can slide off and then one side flips up and then it can injure yourself. That's the first tip. Squat safety tip number 2, always use safety bars, so that when you squat down and you miss the lift or you get stuck at the bottom and you can't get back up, you've got the safety bars. Position them just 1 or 2 inches just above the very bottom of your squat, so that if anything happens, you just come down and place the bar on the safety bars. They can literally save your life. Squat safety number 3, keep your body weight over the middle of your foot and the bar over the middle of your foot at all times. So if your body weight shifts towards your feet, the bar's going to want to take you forward, and if you shift too much towards the heels, the bar is going to want to make you fall backwards. So you always keep the bar over the middle of the foot, and therefore you reduce the lever arm between the bar and the pivot point, which is your hips. Therefore you're keeping your hips as close to where your bar is on the back of your back, as close to the hips as you can. If your back comes forward like this, the lever arm increases between the pivot point and the bar, and then it will topple you over. Squat safety tip number 4. If you don't have access to safety bars, try to do a high bar squat where you put the bar on the traps rather than on the spine of the scapula, which is down here. You want to make sure that when you go down and you can't get back up, if the bar is further down the back, you're inclined forward, because as the bar is further down your back on the spine of the scapula, you have to lean further forward from the hips. So therefore, if you miss the lift at the bottom, the bar can pull you forward, and then the bar goes over the back of the neck, whacks you on the back of the head and goes forward onto the floor, which can be dangerous for your neck and your head, because you can knock yourself out or damage your neck or strain your neck so far forward that you can bulge your disc in your neck. If you're doing squats without a safety bar, it's better to do high bar squats where the bar is higher up on your trapezius muscles, which means that the hips come closer to the center line of your body, and also the lever arm is less between the bar and the pivot point in your hips, and therefore your back is more upright. So you're more likely to go down into the squat, and then if you do get stuck, you're not as likely to fall forward. You can just lean backwards and throw the bar off your back and jump forward, and then therefore save yourself from getting pinned under the bar and then the bar coming forward and rolling over the back of your neck. Tip number 4, footwear. The best footwear you can use for squatting is using an Olympic shoe or a weightlifting shoe where the heel is raised about 1 inch, which puts your foot into a plantar flexed position, which means you can get your bum lower down towards the floor and you can get more full range of motion and keep your back more upright. Then the second best option is a solid trainer with a solid sole, like a Converse trainer. Third best option is to do squats in bare feet. What you want to do is you want to do the squat in bare feet. Then when you finished your set, put your shoes back on. You don't really want to walk around the gym with no shoes on, because someone might drop something on your foot, or you might drop a plate on your foot and break your foot. So Squat safety tip number 6. If your back starts rounding when you're squatting and you're coming up and it starts doing this, stop your squat. You're more likely to injure yourself. You have the spinal erectors that run up either side of the spine, the vertebrae, and they can get strained by elongating under a heavy load. Your pivot point is your hips, and then it rounds your back and then it stretches out the spinal erectors. The muscles can get strained. Secondly, ligamentum flavum, which is the ligament that runs from the laminae of each vertebrae, that can get overstrained and overstretched and cause pain. You have the posterior longitudinal ligament that runs along the inside here of the vertebrae all the way up here. That can, when the lower back gets curved and the pelvis tucks under, when you're coming up out of the squat, that can get strained. Also, these tiny little joints here between each vertebrae, the facet joints or the zygapophyseal joints, those joint capsules can also get strained if they get overflexed. And also the annulus fibrosus, which is the collagen part of the outer layer of the disc, can get strained and can also bulge with a heavy load and a lower back flexion. When your back starts rounding in a squat, stop, because the stress is going onto your back at the very least, and it will be going on to other structures, and it increases the chances of injury risk and strain to various structures that I've talked about. And the load is then coming off the quads and going onto your back. It means that your quads have fatigued too much, and so that your back is getting all the load. Tip number 8. Avoid 1 rep maxes with your squats. You only need to do 1 rep maxes when you're doing powerlifting. Other than that, don't ego lift. You see ego lifting in the gym all the time, especially with roid heads. Want to do 1 rep max every single week on all various lifts because they're getting so strong so quickly, and they are prone to injury risks. Sets of 2, 3, 5 and up to 10 reps for your squats to reduce injury and work your quads as much as possible, so you're going through a full range of motion, and full range of motion increases the hypertrophy of your quad and glute. Instead of ego lifting and doing short range of motion, reduce the weight and go through a full range of motion where your bum goes all the way down to the floor, or your crease of your hip goes below the crease of your knee, stretching out your bum and your quads, and they'll grow much bigger and you'll avoid injury. And then finally, safety tip number 8. Go through full range of motion, don't ego lift. The best way for full range of motion is to do a high bar squat with the bar on the back of your neck, so that when you squat, your knee comes all the way up towards your chest. Crease of your knee is above the crease of your hip, and your hamstrings are almost touching your calf muscles. Full range of motion will increase the amount of hypertrophy and strength you can get out of a muscle. Shorter the range of motion, the less hypertrophy you'll get. Yeah, go through a full range of motion, cut out the ego, cut out the drugs, leave your ego at the door, and lift safely.